it's Jennifer Harding Marlin, an attorney that works at J.H. Marlin Law, a law firm in the Caribbean that specializes in citizenship by investment. I'm here today with a special guest, Roger Ver, first investor in the world in cryptocurrency. Maybe you want to introduce yourself a little bit more?
Proud Kittian, right? I've been a citizen of St. Kitts for almost a decade now. Here we are at the same time in the beautiful island nation of St. Kitts, and Nevis is right over that way. This place is wonderful.
So I just wanted to ask you a couple questions about how you grew up and what led you to the island of St. Kitts and Nevis.
I started researching citizenship by investment countries out there in the world, and St. Kitts is basically the gold standard for that, and certainly the gold standard in the Caribbean. And so I came here for the first time as part of that in 2011 or 2012, and just fell in love with how beautiful this place is. And you can see the background behind us here. This place is just absolutely gorgeous. The weather's perfect every day of the year. You don't have to come here at all, but if you come here, you'll just fall in love with the place and want to come back over and over again because it's just such a wonderful place. And here I am almost a decade after having become a citizen, and still I just come here all the time because I like it so much. And so I grew up in Silicon Valley and been around computers my whole life. And just kind of through, I guess, good luck, I wound up picking up a book one summer, and the name of the book was Socialism, by Ludwig von Mises. And some of your viewers may already know who Ludwig von Mises is and what this book Socialism is all about. But when I first picked up the book, I thought it was a pro-socialism book. And I kind of knew Americans were against socialism, but I didn't really even know what socialism was. And so I figured I should at least hear both sides of the argument. So I started to read this book on socialism, thinking that it was a pro-socialist book. But in reality, Ludwig von Mises is basically the founder of the Austrian School of Economics, and this book, Socialism, I think was termed as his devastating critique of socialism. And in this book, he points out that you need prices, and without a price system, you have no idea what resources should be used to produce what goods. And so that's why, like in a command economy like Soviet Russia, they had to look at the West to see what goods they were using to produce other goods. And without prices being able to transmit the information to people all over the world that allows them to cooperate with each other, you'd have no idea whether the table we're sitting on should be made of wood or gold or who knows what, and where they should be put. And like the prices transmit information. It's actually one of the most amazing. It was kind of like the internet before the internet. Prices transmit the information to people all over the world that have never met each other and tell them, hey, should you spend your day planting rubber trees or banana trees or working in a factory or doing something else. So I read this book and it just sent me down this path in life of being incredibly fascinated by economics and the study of human action, and how it's everything. Like trading with other human beings is what's allowed humankind to achieve everything we achieved so far, whether it's a little bench in a park or spaceships going to the moon and then soon Mars and beyond. It's because of humans being able to trade with each other, and the communication method that takes place or that enables that trade is money. And the money and the price system that goes there, it's so incredibly important. When you see governments all around the world messing with the money supply and printing a bunch of money and they call it fancy names like quantitative easing, but it's disrupting that flow of information that's enabling human beings all over the planet to collaborate with each other in the most effective way possible. So a couple decades later, after studying all this economics, I heard about Bitcoin for the first time, and I knew this was going to change everything. This is something that people are naturally just going to start using as money, and they're going to use it to buy and sell and trade with each other all over the planet, and there wasn't going to be anything anybody could do to stop that from happening. And it was really an incredibly amazing, powerful invention of this peer-to-peer electronic cash for the world. And I also knew that governments, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. Governments always make it more difficult than it needs to be an entrepreneur. And so one of the governments that's really excellent at making it difficult to be an entrepreneur is the United States government at the moment. And they're giving Elon Musk a hard time recently, one of the best entrepreneurs ever. And they certainly gave me a hard time in my own business. And so I knew I happen to have been born in America, but I don't need to be an American. Why should I be an American? I'm going to go to the place that's the most suited to who I am and where I am. And to quote one of your competitors, I wanted to go where I was treated best. So, and I wound up here in St. Kitts because this is really an amazing place. No income tax, no capital gains tax, hardly anything at all. You don't even have to file a tax return at the end of the year. And so I just plain knew it was going to be a safer place for somebody like myself that's engaged in cryptocurrencies and internet entrepreneurship. You want to live in a country where the government isn't going to bother you. In the U.S., they love to kick down people's doors at 5 in the morning and give them a hard time for being an entrepreneur. Well, unimaginable for that to happen here in St. Kitts. Absolutely unimaginable. I don't think they've ever kicked anybody's door down at 5 a.m. for some sort of business-related anything here ever. I'd be shocked if that was the case. So, and I'm just so happy to be here. The weather's perfect every day, and the island is beautiful, and the people are incredibly friendly, and it's just a fantastic place. And I think you probably feel similarly though too. Like, you don't have to come here. You don't have to do anything here. You just keep coming because you like it. Is that right? And it would be even more fun if we have even more entrepreneurs and even more, smart people from all over the world showing up here in St. Kitts.
So what are some lessons that you learned from your first business, and people that want to follow in your footsteps, what type of advice would you have for them?
And if you look at what any business is, whether it's a coffee shop or, building spaceships to go to the moon or Mars, any business is moving something from where it's worth less to where it's worth more. Whether it's physical goods or human capital or the knowledge inside your mind, you're just moving it from where it's worth less to where it's worth more. And so you can look out there in the world and say, okay, where is something that's not being utilized as effectively as it otherwise could be? And your signal for that is the price signal, right? Money plays an incredibly important role. That's the prices of something that's transmitted by the price in money. That's your signal. Oh, this could be worth more over there. So for example, there's all sorts of factories in China that are producing goods, and they can produce those goods in China for, $5 a widget. But you can sell those $5 from China widgets in Europe or the US or St. Kitts for $10. Well, that means those goods are worth more in those other places, and they're worth less in China. So you as an entrepreneur can then move those goods from China to where they're worth more. And the price signal there, the fact that you're able to earn a profit by doing that, is the signal that that's something that the world values you doing. And if you have the governments messing with the money supply, it will disrupt that price signal and will make it more difficult for people to make the world a better place for everybody. And it's a real shame anytime governments block the flow of capital or interfere in the supply of money or restrict the flow of wire transfers or anything else. You're literally disrupting the information that enables human civilization to progress. That's why cryptocurrencies were so incredibly exciting for me, because you literally have uncensorable peer-to-peer cash for the world, so people all over the planet, without talking with words, still communicate with each other via the pricing system.
And you've done a lot of work in cryptocurrency here in the Caribbean. Do you want to talk about sort of what you've done here in St. Kitts or Antigua and
so if you go to another neighboring island here, Antigua, you can pay in Bitcoin Cash and a couple of other cryptocurrencies at just about everywhere in the country at this point. Pretty much every major restaurant, some gas stations, just all sorts of stuff there. And now the same thing's starting to take place here in St. Kitts as well. We're going to see more and more businesses start accepting Bitcoin Cash directly here in St. Kitts because it works so incredibly well. St. Kitts is only a country of 45, 50,000 people. Like, you can really make a big impact on a country that's that size, and it's fun to see just how much interest and excitement there is about that here as well.
So maybe you want to talk a little bit about your passions outside of cryptocurrency and sort of what made you end up going to Japan, because you were in Japan for a while and still in Japan a little bit.
Haven't been in Japan so much recently,
okay,
so no, don't need to apologize, because, and I'll tell you the exact reason I haven't been in Japan much is the government there has made it not very convenient to be there, right? These crazy quarantines and restrictions just make it really, really difficult to do things. So I'm going to go where the lifestyle's the best, and at the moment that's St. Kitts for me. And again, I don't even have to fill out a tax return at the end of the year here.
That's the most.
Like I wasn't particularly happy to pay the taxes in the U.S. because they use it for all sorts of things that I think are bad. But I was still, you have to do it or you go to jail. But the part that was just terrifying is if you do something wrong, even unintentionally, they'll show up, men with guns will literally show up at your home or your business or both and give you a hard time about that. And my tax returns were thousands of pages long in the US. Right here, I don't even have to fill out a form anymore. Talk about the most liberating feeling, not to even have to fill out a form at the end of the year. It's just such an amazingly liberating feeling. And I'm just, honestly, the happiest day of my entire life. I'm 42 years old today. The happiest day of my life was the day I became a St. Kitts citizen and stopped becoming an American. So I'm just incredibly grateful to St. Kitts for affording me that opportunity, and I'm proud to call it my main home at this point, I think.
So you spent some time in prison?
Sure, quite a segue. Tell us about your time in prison. So long ago in the United States, I sold firecrackers on eBay without a license. And the company that I was buying them from had no license, the manufacturer had no license, nobody had a license in any way, shape, or form. And all of that was fine for everybody. But my mistake was I also ran for political office as a libertarian. And I said that basically I think the FBI and ATF aren't good people, right? Because they murdered a bunch of kids in a church in Waco, Texas in the mid-90s. And I said, I think the world would be just fine without an FBI or an ATF. I think the world would be just fine without them. In fact, I think the world would be better without them. And so I would love to, people talk about defund the police. Let's defund the FBI. Let's defund the ATF. I think it would be even better. But boy, they didn't like somebody saying that. I was in my early 20s, already fairly successful in business, saying that. So I wound up having the wonderful distinction of becoming the only person in the entire country to ever have been prosecuted for selling those firecrackers without a license. And I wound up signing a plea deal, and I did 10 months in federal prison. And even while I was in prison, the company I had been buying the firecrackers from and the company manufacturing them were still manufacturing and reselling them without a license. And eventually these other companies were just basically told to stop selling them, but nobody else got in any trouble whatsoever other than myself. And so here I am 20 years later. I feel I was treated incredibly unfairly with all that, and I'm still annoyed, to put it mildly, as to just how unfairly I was treated. But the day I was allowed to leave the United States, I left. And at that point I'd had a Japanese girlfriend before, and I figured that there were more to be had in Japan, so I wound up in Japan. But if I'd had a Russian girlfriend, I would have wound up in Russia. If Brazilian, it would have been Brazil. Or if I had a Kittian girlfriend before, I would have wound up in St. Kitts even earlier, I think. And so that brings us to today. And I lived there for quite a while, and then became a St. Kitts citizen about a decade ago now, and just find myself spending more and more time here in St. Kitts.
So what are some of your short-term and long-term goals, maybe personally and business-wise?
Yeah, I think that there's a huge overlap between my long-term personal and business goals. It's the same. I want to see the entire world have access to peer-to-peer electronic cash, where any human being can send and receive any amount of money with anyone else, anywhere on the planet, without having to get permission from a bank or a government or anybody else, and without having to use a custodial solution or pay someone for all sorts of crazy techno-babble type stuff to use the cryptocurrency. It just needs to be fast, cheap, reliable, and self-custodial for everybody. And I'm still busy investing in companies that are building those tools and building those tools myself, and doing that exact sort of thing. And in fact, I'll show everybody how easy it is on Jennifer's channel here. If you send her an email within 24 hours of the video going up, if it's more than 24 hours, you're too late.
Don't send me an email if it's over 24 hours.
You can still email her, but not about this. I'll send you, it'll be my money, I'll send you $5 in Bitcoin Cash via email. Just like that, or actually Jennifer will, but I'll give her the Bitcoin Cash to do that. And so there you go. You have to do that within the first 24 hours, though. If it's been more than 24 hours, the deal is off. But you can see firsthand just how amazing this technology is to be able to send and receive money around the world. And as I mentioned before, money in the price system is what enables people all over the world to cooperate with each other to effectively produce the most, to satisfy the most desires of the most number of people with the least amount of resources required to do so. And so if we can roll this out to the entire world, the entire rate of human progress will be better and faster and more efficient for everybody. So that's my goal, because that's my goal for the world, because this is the world that I'm living in too, and I want it to be the best world we possibly can make it as soon as we possibly can make it that. So that's what I'm spending my time and money and effort on to this very day.
And what are some of your interests outside of crypto and outside of, in terms of business and personal?
Probably not a big overlap with your the viewers of your channel, but my other big hobby is choking people. I'm referring to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, of course. I've been doing that for like 14 years now. I think coming up on 15 years of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and competed in a bunch of tournaments, and I really enjoy that sport. It's a really fun sport. So anyhow,
you're really good too. You're incredible. It's incredible to watch you.
Yeah, 15 years we'll do that. So anyhow, if you haven't tried and you're looking for some exercise, it's a fantastic sport for good exercise, and it's just plain fun and addicting as well.
Who was the first person who talked to you about cryptocurrency, or how did you learn about cryptocurrency? Or
yeah, so the first thing I heard about cryptocurrency was in reference to the Silk Road. And for those that don't know, the Silk Road was a website that allowed people to use Bitcoin to buy and sell mainly marijuana, but some other drugs too. You could get harder drugs, cocaine and heroin and ecstasy and things like that. And it was, I heard about it, and I wasn't interested in the drugs. I'm not someone who uses any drugs whatsoever, but I thought, what the heck kind of money are they using for this, right? Because you can't do that with PayPal, you can't do that with a wire transfer. What the heck are they using for this? And so I started Googling Bitcoin, and back then it still worked as peer-to-peer electronic cash, so I fell head over heels in love with this technology and did everything I could to promote it to the entire world. And today, the person that set up that website, who is a hero in my book, he's condemned to die in an American prison, right? He's only late 30s, maybe 37 years old, 38 years old, somewhere in there today. He's going to die in prison unless he has a presidential pardon. So whether it's President Biden or the next president, like, one of them really needs to pardon this guy. And I invite everybody, if you don't think somebody should die in prison for setting up an e-commerce website using cryptocurrency that allowed people to buy and sell anything that's peaceful, you should sign the petition over at freeross.org. So, but the person I heard about the Silk Road from was another guy named Ian Freeman, who's the host of a libertarian radio talk show called Free Talk Live. You can visit their website at freetalklive.com. And unfortunately now the federal government's trying to send him to jail for a long, long time. They kicked down his door at like 5 in the morning and arrested a bunch of people because they bought and sold cryptocurrencies and they didn't have the right license in place and didn't ask for permission from the right government bureaucrat and this and that. And just, America is a terrifying place for entrepreneurs. Like, it used to be the land of the free and the home of the brave. Well, I think the brave nowadays are smart enough to leave, right? You have to be brave to leave your home country. Be brave, leave. America is not the land of the free anymore. So my heart goes out to all the people over at Free Talk Live. They're looking at long, long times in prison for, basically they ran a Bitcoin ATM machine. And the government didn't like that because they didn't have the right permission slips in place. So I guess both people that I heard about cryptocurrency from in the first place are now looking at the one's already in prison and the other's looking at that. And I wish them both the absolute best. And to the police, judges, prosecutors, and law enforcement officers, like, leave peaceful people alone. Peaceful people should be allowed to do anything that's peaceful, and it's none of your business what they do if it's so long as they're not hurting somebody else. And buying and selling cryptocurrency without a stranger's permission isn't hurting anybody. So please leave those people alone. That's my soapbox speech for today.
So maybe you want to talk a little bit about your experience doing citizenship by investment and about the process and what it was like for you.
Yeah, so I'm actually, I think, a bit of an expert when it comes to citizenship by investment at this point. And if I ever exit the cryptocurrency space, I have a second career waiting for me, I think. But it's really amazing just how much of that sort of thing is going on around the world. So a real common example of that is people in China. If you have a Chinese passport, you can hardly go anywhere without needing a visa. And some countries really make it difficult to get a visa, whereas an easier path to be able to go visa-free to a lot of countries would just be to have a different passport. So I think the vast majority of Chinese people that apply in places like St. Kitts for citizenship, they just want to be able to travel without as big of a headache. Probably the same for a lot of Russians or people from the Middle East as well. Americans, on the other hand, it doesn't matter. If you're a U.S. citizen, no matter where you live in the entire world, even if you haven't been to the U.S. in 20 years, they're still going to bother you about all of your finances and want to spy on everything and all sorts of forms to open a bank account. And most banks won't even want to open a bank account for an American. And the solution to not have to deal with any of that anymore if you're not living in the U.S. is to change your nationality. And St. Kitts makes it really, really easy to do that. And it's wonderful. You get to help St. Kitts and the people of St. Kitts and help yourself all at the same time. So it's a win-win situation. And that's another example in the world too. Like, anytime anybody buys or sells anything with anybody, both people are better off after the trade. Otherwise, the trade wouldn't happen. So for example, if you go in the store and buy a TV for $500, it's because you value the TV more than the $500. But the owner of the TV store values the $500 more than the TV. So both people are richer after the trade happens. And the same is true with citizenship by investment too. It's not cheap, but you'll only do it if you value the citizenship that you've gained and the new passport that you've gained more than you value the money that you've given up in order to get that. And whereas this country, they value the money that they've received from you more than they value the passport that they had to print for you and the new citizen that they have to deal with for those sorts of things. So both people or both entities are better off after the exchange. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. And so that's why we're seeing people from all over the world being engaged in this. And it's kind of, I think, really becoming a very, very common thing for any sort of successful business person to do. Even Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, has a second citizenship recently by investment as well. You're seeing all sorts of entrepreneurs. I'm sure you processed lots of them. So without saying any confidential information, I'm sure you see all sorts of interesting entrepreneurs from all over the world doing this, because especially in the world with COVID-inspired travel restrictions, you don't know where you're going to be able to go or when you can or can't go, and it's almost entirely based on what color your passport is. And it's really a fantastic backup plan to have as many passports as you possibly can at this point if you're someone who wants to be able to have the option of being able to travel to different places in the world. And St. Kitts is, again, like basically the gold standard for that sort of thing. It's really they make it easy, I guess, and Jennifer makes it extra easy. So thank you, Jennifer, for doing that as well.
Yeah, and so what are some of your favorite things to do in St. Kitts and Nevis, or see if someone is coming to visit?
Yeah, we have a nice little jiu-jitsu club here in St. Kitts as well. But if you're not coming here for the jiu-jitsu, the island itself is just absolutely gorgeous. Just everywhere you look, it's beautiful green hills and mountains and fields, and it's just absolutely like perfect weather all year round. It's paradise, right? It's one of the last island paradises in the world, and you don't even have to fill out a tax return at the end of the year for living here. It's just incredible. And yeah, there's some things that aren't quite as convenient as, living in a big city or something like that. But like even when I deal with these minor inconveniences, I stop and think to myself, I used to have to fill out multi-thousand-page tax returns in the US. I don't have to do that anymore. This is paradise, right? I can deal with, it takes an extra day for FedEx to deliver a package to me. That's okay. Right, this place is wonderful, and again, the happiest day of my entire life was the day I stopped being an American and became a Canadian. I have you covered here, so
you can just talk.
So technically, this is supposed to be Jennifer's interview, but she's an excellent citizenship attorney. She's not necessarily a radio personality or an interviewer, but I'll tell you, and I know from firsthand experience from having worked with her, she's right here on the ground in St. Kitts. She's a fantastic agent to work with. Her emails are so precise, so clear. She's just do this, and this. That's what you want. Like I've had the good and bad experiences of dealing with good citizenship by investment agents and bad ones. Jennifer is one of the very, very, very best that I've ever had the pleasure of dealing with. And so if you're looking at getting a second citizenship, you want someone that's physically on the ground in the country, knows the people at the Citizenship by Investment office. You want someone that actually knows what they're doing. And as someone who's worked with Jennifer, I can recommend her full-heartedly on that front. And the worst mistake you can make is just going to one of these mills where they don't have anybody on the ground, they don't know any of the people, and they'll just string you along for months, if not years, and nothing will ever get done. Because that's one of the things in the Caribbean. Not as many people are in a big hurry to get things done, but Jennifer is one of the people that wants to get things done and get it done in a prompt amount of time. So if you're considering it, I can fully recommend Jennifer myself. She's been fantastic on that front, and I'm sure she'll continue to be fantastic on that front. And so maybe she's not the most outgoing interviewer all the time, but she will process your paperwork quickly, accurately, precisely, and be communicative the entire way through and keep you up to date on how the process is going. And she takes cryptocurrency for all of her services as well, so you can. That's one more added bonus there. And anything else I left out that you want to add on that, Fred?
Well, just thank you so much for your comments
and come visit St. Kitts. Like, there's a good chance when you come, like at least one of us will probably be on the island, and I think we'd probably be happy to meet most of you and show you a nice restaurant for lunch or dinner or something like that. So, because this place is beautiful, wonderful weather, wonderful people, wonderful everything. So come for a visit sometime.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on the channel and sharing your thoughts about St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship by investment, cryptocurrency, and everything in between.
And if you liked this video, you can like it, and if you think your friends would like it, share it on your Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe to this channel if you want to learn more information about St. Kitts in the future and all the cool things that are happening here. And Jennifer is very knowledgeable, not just about St. Kitts, but about citizenship by investment as well. So if you want to keep up to date, like, subscribe, and share.